Call the meeting to order at 6:04 PM. This is a public meeting of the Town of Dayton Planning Board located at the lower level of Town Hall in the conference room at 979 Somerset Avenue, Dayton, Mass. 02715. The date tonight is Wednesday, February 5th, 2016 at 6 PM. This is a public meeting being video and audio recorded for cable broadcast and also later to be shown on our YouTube channel. With that being said, would the members please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to confirm the next meeting date of February 19th of 2020.
If that's the second Wednesday of, the
That'd be the
third
third
Wednesday, then I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion been made, a second. Any further discussion on the next meeting date? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. First on the agenda of the business is A, review, discuss, and act on a Form A application of Ashley Peterson et al., 1543 Cedar Street, map 18, lot 12. Gentlemen, you'll see this in your packets. I've had an opportunity to look at it this morning with our office manager, and I just had a single question in regards to this, is that just the size of the right-of-way itself, the width. And I'll have Mr. Gilbert elaborate on that. Everything else seems pretty cut and dry. If you look at the map itself and you look up in the right-hand corner, that is what they're projecting to do at this location. Is they want to add land to another section and have a 10-foot right-of-way. Steve, is this existing dwelling going to be removed?
No, it's not.
It's
I
not?
believe it's gonna be, I've been inside it, and it's an old building, but I believe it's gonna be restored, from what I understand.
Okay,
Yeah, there's gonna be a new septic system. We've already done the perk test there, so that's already been designed and approved,
okay,
so.
okay. It seems to be that. They didn't put it all in up there. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, for the record, Steve Gilbert, SFG Engineering, nice to see the Dayton board again, haven't seen him for a while. We've got an existing house, number 1543, that's gonna be given 175 feet of frontage, and it'll be 2.6 acres, 81,257 square feet of all upland. Excuse me, not all upland, but 81,257 is upland. There's a little bit of wetlands in the back left corner of this lot.
Okay,
The other lot has 296.18 feet of frontage way down to the end of, on the right side of Cedar Street. And it's also got 15 feet of frontage abutting the house lot that will give them access to get a driveway in that way if they wanna go that way. The
okay.
problem with coming on the right side, as you can see, there's a lot of wetlands. And as you come up the side of these people's property, that 300-foot line, towards the back corner where we show that iron rod, there's a massive piece of ledge there. It's gotta be 30, 40 feet high. So it's really not passable. I mean, it would have to be blasted, and the only way to do that is you'd probably be encroaching on these people's property, so it's almost impossible to get by there. That's the problem, so the access is really an issue. I mean, it can be done, you could go into the wetlands and replicate and whatnot, but we'd rather not do that if we don't have to. We ran the idea of the building inspector of coming up, again, alongside the house lot. We have 15 feet of frontage there that we'd use. He'd like to get a little bit of an easement so that we'd have room for emergency vehicles. So we suggested a 10-foot easement on the abutting, on the property
Okay.
to make it wide enough.
I don't know what your plans are for the future down there,
Mm-hmm.
but any type of, the state requires, and the fire, whatever it is, the National Fire Department, something, 20 feet, I think you know that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So 10 feet will just,
Well, 10 feet plus our 15, so it'll give us 25. We'll have 25 total.
okay.
Yeah, we've got 15 feet of frontage abutting their lot over there. So that added 10 feet will give us
Well,
25
Yeah,
feet.
so they'll give 25 feet,
Oh, yeah.
all the way down.
And the proposed lot that we're showing is, I don't know, roughly 15 acres with 190,000 feet of upland, so there's plenty of upland there.
Yeah, I was noticing that too. It's a good sized parcel.
Oh,
I know the parcel,
Okay.
I've walked it as a child up there. John, do you have any other questions you'd like to ask of the engineer today?
Oops, nothing else.
Woods? Yeah, good. Boom.
All set?
All right, with that being said, I'm going to, entertain a motion to accept the Form A for property located at 1543 Cedar Street, map 18, lot 12.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, it's a nice piece of land.
Oh, it is a good piece of land.
3 of those.
I knew the former owner, she was in school for years.
Okay. Yep.
Very good.
The house is an interesting house. It's an interesting house. It's
So they plan to rent it outside?
Yeah.
Right now, I believe whoever's supposed to be talking pretty serious about buying it is gonna do all this.
Hey, Tim, can you pass that pen down for me?
Sure, I'll let you use that.
Oh.
Right.
And you're gonna have no pen?
I was gonna get one. I have that.
Marker?
I think the 6 o'clock start time is a real nice
Might as well.
idea you guys have. 6 o'clock start time, I think it's a good idea.
I like signing my name.
That'll make your number 3 on
Here, you need all 6 copies of 5.
it. What's that?
You need all copies, all done?
Yes, please.
Okay.
How's things, Stevie?
Good, how about yourself?
Can't complain.
Living the dream?
Every day.
I don't know, I can't read you.
Coming down to you, Joe.
Yeah, you got those.
Yep.
Yeah, you got those. I'm just
I
gonna
didn't get that
deal
one.
with that one. I'll get this one,
Yeah,
this one.
gotta
the
come
Three
up with a
Stooges.
better way.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, you can't rubber stamp them anymore.
This is why we
No,
wanted
no.
a round
There you go.
table.
Yeah.
It's illegal.
You slide them around.
I don't know if I signed that one.
No,
We were supposed to get one, I don't know what
I
happened.
get that one.
They ran out of money.
Ran out of money. Hey, we should buy
I
one.
think I'm gonna have,
Huh?
We
have
should
a
buy
big
one.
tree cut right up the road here and we'll make a round table out of it. There you go.
I suggested to my son to make that his senior project for BP.
Ah,
I got the eye roll, so.
No, but I will if it gives me the,
the which majigger?
yeah.
There's plenty in that box.
Well, that's where I took it from.
Well,
Today
yeah,
the
chuck
fifth?
it, chuck it.
Today's
2-5.
2-5.
Still in point.
So far. Date approved, date endorsed. Endorsed by the planning board.
That's the ones they cut the.
Yeah.
Same date,
Yeah, today, same day. Don't forget, the 2020 part of that. 'cause
Right on the, right on the main
Robin,
strip there, or was it
everybody,
off?
amazing.
Yeah, it's on the main strip.
Yeah.
We're all kind of stuff
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Plain. That's a plain one.
It was really
Good business, good.
Yeah, it's very much.
Lot of new starts.
That's what I've been to, I've been to
A lot of
circle
septic
around
appeals,
here.
we do a lot of that. I mean, we do survey, everything, we do a lot of septic appeals, designs.
I don't know,
Kingston.
one in Hyannis.
All these houses that.
Yeah, one in one on the North Shore
North
somewhere, and one in Hyannis. Been in Hyannis a couple times.
Well, we may be getting more if they have sewer go down 138.
Yeah,
So it all depends on how many people are gonna wanna tie in, what the betterment tax is gonna be.
Honest one.
good idea.
Honest one's
Lady Joe, see?
Gonna be
Always
interesting.
Joe, always Joe.
I'm going for that Portuguese steak this weekend.
There you
Now,
go.
don't forget to put the date.
Today is 2/5.
Yeah, okay. You're all set.
Thank you.
So you can either email me the recording receipt
Okay,
or drop it off, either one.
whatever's easier, it's fine.
Huh?
Whatever's, yeah, we'll get it to you.
Yeah, whatever way.
All right, good.
Yeah, just email that to me and then I'll notify the building inspector and then he'll be,
Okay, good.
whatever he's doing. For the building permit or whatever you need.
Okay,
And then
great, thanks a lot, appreciate it.
have a
Thanks
good
a lot.
one.
Nice seeing you all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care,
Have a
Steve.
great
Take care,
night.
Steve.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Same here, take care.
See you, Steve.
Bye.
Good
Bye.
seeing you.
You too.
Alright, with A being done, we're gonna be under review, discuss, and act on the Route 44 business corridor. Let me just start off by saying that, Mr. Vice Chair Pius has been working very diligently at this, and, I've had an opportunity to look at it also. And, I'm gonna read what, Tom's come up with, and, we'll have comments after I get done with, the presentation. So this is going to be to create a new district in our bylaws, section 2110 of the Dayton zoning bylaws, to be known as Route 44 Business District. The boundaries are on the north at a location 1,000 feet from the center line of Route 44, on the east at the Dayton Taunton line, and on the west at the Dayton Rehoboth town line. Purpose and intent: the Route 44 Business District is hereby established to allow a multi-district to encourage full use of existing structures and development of new business in existing business and residential areas in a manner that promotes, protects, and enhances the value of the land and buildings and provides for a variety of residential, business, and limited industrial uses. Industrial use: 1, restricted to manufacturing, parentheses, non-hazardous, out of parentheses, and light manufacturing, as defined in Dayton zoning bylaws, section 6. Definitions: the facilities shall be at least 250 feet to the nearest structure or property line, whichever is the greatest by special permit. 2, marijuana establishment, restricted to marijuana cultivator, marijuana product manufacturer, and marijuana retailer, as defined in Dayton zoning bylaws, section 2916. Definitions: the requirements of section 2900 marijuana establishments shall apply. The business use is the appendix A, which is the table of use regulations shall apply. The residential use is appendix A, the table of use regulations shall apply. Should there be, this is the question that's gonna be out there for us, is that, should there be language that removes all the existing zoning? And if we decide on an overlay, we don't have to worry about the existing zoning. So these are questions that we possibly may have to ask of our attorney. I don't believe it may have to go that route. But that, again, is the question, is should there be language that removes all the existing zoning that's at that location?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this is a very basic first draft of what our thoughts were from previous discussion, a little previous discussion. I've been working with Mallory and Jim Aguirre to tweak it as necessary to develop what we think is a good project for up there. Mr. Ryan's the chairman, recommended we do a workshop in the near future once this becomes more viable, something we might wanna look at and accept, so
Yeah, we know, what I mean by that, and what the vice chair's inferring is that if we have a workshop, it's a continual workshop where the members can deliberate in open session without taking a vote. So that way we don't break the open meeting law. So if we leave it as a session that we have now, we cannot deliberate between each other as a board. So it's best that we have it under a working session where deliberations can continue.
Makes sense.
So I'm gonna make a motion this time to table that. That's the basic gist of what we're trying to do, to encourage more development up there. I'm gonna make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
To table?
Yep.
Okay.
Motion to table, gentlemen, is a non-discussion motion. There has been a second. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
And we'll, when it comes down to the end and we have that, everybody will have a copy.
Next on the agenda is item C, review, discuss, and act on a request for proposal for on-call engineering consultant services. Now, gentlemen, you're gonna see, the information that's gonna be in your packet. It was this is just a draft that was put together by our office manager, and what I would like to see, if possible, and I know the town administrator has put this out there, is that, I would like to see the planning board, along with the zoning board of appeals, and other entity in town, to come on board with us in regards to going out for an engineer, because most of us do use the same engineers in town, and I think it would probably be a little more cost prohibitive, in order to do that. But just so the residents know, our engineering fees are paid by fees that are received by the applicants. So what our office manager has done is that we're gonna go through and we're gonna look at the last 3 or 4 years of what we spent on engineers and come up with those numbers. And then hopefully the zoning board of appeals and any other board in town that needs engineering services will come on with us with this RFP. So with that being said, any members have any questions?
Yeah, wouldn't it be a good idea to invite the Conservation Commission into that as well?
I did, haven't heard back from them. I did speak to Mallory. Mallory stated that they already have an engineer.
Mhm.
I'm not sure who it is, but she couldn't remember off the top of her head, but she said they already had one that they've been using for.
She's a conservation specialist too,
I believe so,
which,
yeah.
you know, is what they need.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. What is that young lady's name?
Lisa Caledonia.
Lisa Caledonia, yes, she was here before.
So I did approach ZBA, so their new office manager is gonna have that on topic for the ZBA next week when we meet. And I'm still waiting to hear back from Board of Health / Stormwater Committee. I'm not sure how they're gonna do that.
They have their engineer, that's, what's it, Todd?
Yeah,
Well-
we're pretty well covered on that,
So
but
you're all
if we
set.
do need these services, yes, as long as there's a 53G
Mhm.
to pay any, you know, any professionals, engineering professionals, professional, technical, that would pay for it, so. I think the engineer we hire probably will be for everybody who wants it, for the most part.
Well, that would change the language in our RFP then, so,
Well, I looked at the first paragraph there. Town of Dayton is soliciting services of qualified peer engineering consulting services for a period of up to 3 years to the Dayton Planning Board. Now, the next is a
Correct.
parenthesis, so I really don't know what that means.
the
Dayton
what?
Town Boards and Commissions.
Yes.
To me, that meant everybody else who needed,
Well, I put that in as an alternative in case someone said, yes, please include us.
oh, okay.
So it depends on who else is
kind of
gonna be
response
joining
you
us, then I'll edit it to do that.
Okay, then it'd be
I
stricken.
think it was Mallory's hope that we were hoping that everyone could just join in on one, but no one's responded. So,
The only drawback to that is that there will only be one opinion from an engineering firm for everything.
everything.
I agree with you on that, Joe.
If we had different engineering firms, they all would have a different opinion, or they could have the same.
Right,
Right.
But
You're hearing more than one.
you're hearing more than one
Right.
opinion.
I got you.
and that would be the only advantage,
Yeah.
hopefully advantages, of having different engineering firms.
I think the only one that we really are neck and neck with, that we do the same, is the planning board and the ZBA. Because pretty much the ZBA would use an engineer for the 40Bs that come in, right? So, and that's what I've seen, and that's the feeling I get, in the short time that I've had to deal with engineers between the two department, or any department, it's really, planning and ZBA.
Yeah. Like I said, the only thing is, I think two heads is better than one.
Are you talking two
Agreed.
engineers for the same project?
Yeah, just from
Well-
different boards, and then of course they would be able to
I think the
deliberate.
applicant would only
Yeah, they can collaborate
They
together
would
and
only go
deliberate.
pay for
the
one.
differences.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But I think the perfect example, what you're speaking to, Joe, is Conservation Commission has their own engineer, peer review engineer for that. So say something comes in with a lot of wetlands, and we've had our engineer review it, and of course it'll go to Concom. Their engineer will have some input, and they'll be able to bounce things off.
Yeah,
And then
and
it's separate,
I honestly believe that ZBA has been using Peter Williams as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
they
Oh,
have.
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
For quite some time.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been working, so
It's,
it's
yeah,
not an issue. I'm just putting that out,
yeah,
you know, because I
Understandable.
honestly believe that it is,
to our benefit.
to our benefit
Yeah.
to have as many opinions as we can.
Absolutely, especially with what we've been dealing with in a few subdivisions over the past few years.
More to come.
So that's what I've done, that's, pretty much the consensus, yeah, that I've gotten so far is pretty much just the planning board and the ZBA. So I would modify this, once we get the approval from the ZBA, if they come back with that, I will modify it, to reflect planning board and zoning board of appeals.
Mhm.
And then I had spoken to Mallory briefly about, establishing the date, time, and everything. That'll all be set by her because she's the procurement officer, so this is the stuff that the planning board is reviewing, saying, yes, this is what we want, and then we give it to Mallory, and then she enters it into the state computer so that we can get the required RFPs and whatnot. So we don't really have to look at the language about, setting the date and times of when to receive them, when to open them, deadlines, none of that, because that'll be handled by Mallory. Ours is just making sure that what we're requesting is really what we want.
But we don't have to interview these people at all?
There will be, she suggested that the best thing is maybe one or two people from the planning board members, be there for the review and interviews and whatnot. Or maybe one member from the planning board and one member from ZBA if they join in. Or even, you'd still, if you had two from planning board, you're still not having a quorum,
Right.
right? So you'll be able to do that.
When was the last time the planning board went out for RFPs for engineer? How many years ago?
God, we've had Peter for forever.
Forever, right?
Since pretty much
I-
since I've been on the board.
I think the last time I looked at it was
In the 80s, maybe?
Yeah, well,
I'm just trying to see
a
if the
contract that
language,
Oh,
I came
okay.
across.
yeah, I'm just trying to see if the
Maybe
language
that was-
that was, used prior to was, just about the same as
Nowhere
what's used
near.
now.
No way,
Yeah,
it was
sure,
one
sure.
paragraph.
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
oh, yeah, no,
Okay.
so I did pull up what
Oh, you got it?
we had from them, and it was just, peer review. And that was pretty much it.
When does Peter wanna finish up?
Peter is, from discussions with him, he will finish the current projects that we have. Anything new coming in, he's done.
Okay, so we need to act.
Yeah.
We need
So,
to,
okay.
which was, something I wanted to do because I know we have that potential proposal for a conservation subdivision. We still have some time on that, And I think pretty much anything right now that's coming before us is all stuff that he's already on. So, yes, but in answer to your question, yeah, we should probably move on this.
Right.
Standard's 90 days, RFP, I believe. So you're looking at 90 days, you're looking at April, May, and June. So we may be able to get this done before town meeting.
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
Well, I don't think town meeting doesn't
It's not
have.
gonna affect it, so it wouldn't
No.
affect it anyway, but,
No, we
I
don't have to
should-
worry about town meeting or
Yeah.
anything, cause there's no funding
That's-
for
yeah,
it.
That's a long time
yeah.
Yeah,
to wait for that. 'Cause I mean, we're gonna have projects.
Yeah.
correct. We're gonna have some projects coming, I would think some new projects coming in, and that's the key word, is, you know, with the stuff that we already have in place, Peter's already doing that.
Right.
So those are
Okay.
covered.
So
It's
let's get
anything
right to
new.
work on this and get it done.
Yeah,
That's, the
So-
same. I feel the same.
Yeah, maybe set a date, so.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm thinking maybe if you guys can review it and, have any of your edits or anything by our next meeting, if you're okay?
Sure, and talk to Mallory and see if the ZBA wants to get in on it, and if not, we'll
Yeah.
You
do
would
it.
think they'd want to.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
They
and
use this-
I've
they use the
advised
same engineer.
Jonathan Gray on that, to say, you may wanna tell them, otherwise they're gonna, something's gonna come in and they're not gonna have an engineer,
Right.
so he's well aware. He just started last week,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah,
Tom, you want to comment?
Yeah, this is kind of in line with what Joe was talking about, two different engineers. I don't see that there would be anything that would prohibit us, unless Mallory doesn't wanna do it, to hire two, one for the zoning board, one for the planning board, to make comments on, the project.
she may, but I did speak to her already, and she was of the opinion that she wanted one for both of us.
Yeah, cause I do
Together.
believe they'll only pay for one engineer, out of the 53 Gs.
Yeah,
Okay.
But the 53G is not just for the planning board, it's for,
it's the applicant's account.
When is Mr., when
so
is
the
GZA's?
applicants that come, that goes into ZBA and planning board?
They would have their own. So, for example, if you have an applicant who's coming in with something, typically, you wouldn't have an applicant that's going to the ZBA and the planning board at the same time. You wouldn't have that. So it's either they're going to zoning board or they're coming to planning board. Does that make
Right.
sense?
It does.
It does make sense, but if the money for the engineering
Mhm.
is gonna be taken out of the planning board's account,
It has to be a planning board related matter. So when someone comes in and gives me a check for the 53G account, it can only be used for a peer review for planning board.
okay.
If they're before the zoning board with an application and they need a 53G account, they can only expend peer review for zoning board matters.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yep.
So I just have one question, is that, do we know when GZA services by contract end?
There's no end date.
There is no end date.
No, Peter's officially given us his retirement. He's retired, but he's agreed to stay on with our current projects that he's already been handling, and he'll
Okay.
phase those, he'll
He'll
phase,
phase, okay.
basically, he's gonna phase out. He's gonna finish the contracts that he has in place that he's reviewing now. Once those are done, he's done. So there's really no end date, because you got Strawberry Fields, right? That could go on for years, for him, so that's something that he'll
Okay,
carry
okay.
on, but he's not taking
He
anything
just doesn't want
new.
any more workload
No
from
new.
the planning board.
Nothing new, he's all done,
Okay.
and he did mention that to me when he saw the agenda for that proposed conservation subdivision, he looked at me and says, I hope you have an engineer, and I said, yeah, I'm working on it.
I did something
I
today,
said, okay.
Okay.
and we had already,
So gentlemen, at this time, I'm going to, entertain a motion, to take this under advisement, to look it over, to see if there are any clerical errors, for errors or omissions. If you find any, you can contact me, or of course, contact our, office manager, and she'll take care of any corrections that need to be made. But we still need to find out a time frame with the town administrator on when we should act on this, if we need to act now or
I would,
Not now, as in
no,
this
meaning,
evening, but
you mean when
soon.
to post it?
Yes.
Well, basically, you guys are going to review it, and we'll revise it at our next meeting. And if you have any other questions or concerns, we can come back. But if you guys go through it, we make some edits, you can approve it right then and there, and then Thursday morning I can bring it to
So
it.
I'm just gonna entertain a motion to, take it under advisement and look at any, see if there are any errors or omissions or any corrections you'd like to have done, and, we'll bring it up next month.
Next
Next
month,
meeting?
Next meeting.
I'm sorry,
Next
next meeting,
meeting.
next meeting, which would be in
The
2
ninth-
weeks.
19th,
Yeah.
which would be February 19th.
Okay.
So motions, so let's.
I'll make that
A
motion.
motion's been made to take it under advisement, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. Next on the agenda, under new business is review, discuss, and act on the waiver list recommendations for proposed comprehensive permit of Strawberry Fields Estates located at 766 Somerset Avenue, map 9, lot 12-1 and number 14. Everyone should have received some information from our office manager in regards to this. The zoning board of appeals had received a list of waivers presented to them by Strawberry Fields. And what the ZBA has asked us and other boards is to look over those waivers that are listed and highlight what waivers are our concerns. So I had gone through and given the list to our office manager, and she had put those together in regards to that. And I can go through just some here that are here. This is a list of what we considered to be in our purview. And first was number 5, and it was under the 2230 professional and technical assistance. And the language in this section implies the town has the right to hire the necessary professional assistance to assure compliance with the subdivision control law at the cost of the applicant. The following requests each reference a section of the Town of Dayton subdivision rules and regulations pertaining to street and sidewalk construction. They're as follows. Number 9, 2520. Number 10, 2530. Number 33, which is 4224. Number 34, which is 4230 under our rules and regulations and the bylaws. Number 36, which is 4251. And number 53, which is 4511.
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
just so everybody understands what all these numbers mean. The first number is the number on the waiver request. And the second 4-digit number is the reference in the subdivision rules and regulations. I had a little bit of time this afternoon, and I threw something together real quick. We can expand on this. They had 87 waiver requests, not all geared towards planning board, but I believe that 50-something were geared to the planning board. Some were procedural, others were, I think, the ones that we really ought to be concerned about are the ones on this paper here. You know, we can add to our argument, but again, I just try to do it quickly, so, enough said.
And a lot of the reference numbers that were on the waiver list itself, a lot of the same numbers came up with Mr. Byers and I had looked at, and a lot of them they were the
Same
same.
thing.
So, and again, they were in regards to what pertains to the planning board. A lot of these waivers are pertaining to conservation or the Board of Health. So we're just concentrating on our section of what pertains to us. And we are going to put together a letter to send to the ZBA in regards to what our concerns are. So they are aired and part of the record at the next ZBA meeting in regards to this construction. Now, you're gonna see that The applicant's intends to have the streets accepted by the town in the future. Now, the plans and the waiver requests indicate that they will not be built to the town's standards and therefore would not be eligible for acceptance by the town. And that means the town roads. We have standards set in our bylaws that a certain width must be established for roadways in town. And they're seeking a waiver to decrease the width of the roadway. And I'm looking at it, and we're looking at this could possibly be a public safety issue, because we need to have enough room for a fire apparatus and ambulance and as the like, and police department to be able to access these roadways. So I'm gonna move on to number 17.
Oh, I didn't reference it.
Before you move on, you know, that's a very good point that you made about the road width. And that's a problem that we had up at Sylvia's Way, and it wasn't an accepted street, and then you have the whole neighborhood show up at town meeting to vote it in as a town road. So, you know, if someone gave them people a waiver, the ZBA,
In the beginning,
In the
the
beginning.
ZBA did.
right, and then we voted not to grant them permission to have an accepted road, and then they petitioned the town on their own,
Right.
and they were schooled on how to do it.
Absolutely.
And the same thing can happen again. And public safety should be our number one concern, as planning board members.
But if they were upfront with them and tell them, you have to build it to standards in the first place if you want that accepted.
Right,
These roads were already built before we became involved in this.
right.
You know, and you're right, they could do the same.
Yeah, they could.
Oh, no, that's not they could, they will.
Right.
Oh, there's no
Oh, yeah.
doubt about that. They don't wanna maintain that, right?
Well, hopefully the zoning board won't approve the.
You know, we were made out to look like the bad guys when we were saying, no, we really can't accept that road, because that's the way you built it.
Right.
And they made us look like the bad guy.
Well, and let's think about it, you know, a lot of people came in, I remember somebody,
They were all nice people.
bringing up the
Yeah.
idea that on Prospect Street or something like that, there's some dirt roads, the lots are 10 times smaller than those were, and they were an accepted road. The town plowed and so on, picked up the garbage. So therefore, why couldn't they get the same treatment? Because they're paying taxes, and so, all of that makes sense. The point is, we put the rules and the regulations to build the roads a certain way. Why should we be giving the waivers at this point?
Correct.
If the rules are there, it's to be
Abided by.
abided
Yeah, it
by.
wasn't until recently that the town decided, well, I say within the last 2 years, recently to me, that the town decided roads will have to be built to our standards in order to be accepted by the town. So, our recommendation is basically on anything to do with the waiver regarding streets and sidewalks not be waived. And
I mean, they
that's
save a lot of money on asphalt, and they give themselves more room to build more lots that way.
correct.
There's a lot of big cost savings for them, and they get to build additional lots. That's what they're trying to get around.
I mean, the city
Yeah.
of Taunton is asking for 18 inches of subcompact material below the asphalt. I mean, that's serious stuff,
It is, that's.
but that's what they're using right now.
And that's what we should use too, and that would slow down building a little bit.
I don't think
No?
so, because there's money in the
Yes.
building,
Yeah,
there's
pass it
money.
on to the
Yeah.
They
buyers.
pass it on to the consumer, instead of charging $450, charge $500, you know, and people are buying it, that's really.
Right.
But when they're selling them for $500 and $550 and so on, and still coming in for the waivers, that's what I.
Right.
You know, Mr. Chairman, you're correct when you make the comment, we should add it in there. It may pose a safety, issue by being smaller streets and,
Oh, it definitely does.
you know, so that'd be something we could add. This was just a,
I think if you take a look at page 8 of the draft response that I made,
oh, we already did?
Well, I came up with some language if you're interested. I mean, obviously it can, be edited, but I did,
Page 8,
Yes, yeah.
yeah, so where it says deny, the waiver request has public safety implications, and I think that's key from what you're saying. So if you look on page 8 of my draft,
deny,
so for example, on number 33 and 34, do you guys have the right one?
You guys got it?
It'll
Not that one,
have, a planning board cover letter that says draft on it.
oh, okay.
So from there, on page
Down, right? Just page 8.
8, right?
8. I did some research of some other cities and towns that, for ones, and this was, that sounded like a good, so I had stated the waiver request has public safety implications. The high density and implicit population reflected by this application makes road width a critical component of a safe community. Studies by traffic and public safety experts should be obtained to aid in consideration of this waiver request.
I like that wording, honestly.
So that's up to you, and.
Well, you can meld them together or do what,
And that's,
Pretty much.
it's almost like that should be a standard response on a lot of these waivers that they're asking for, like smaller roads, less sidewalks, and whatever else that they're
Yeah.
requesting.
Yeah.
on that developing impact statement, mine was,
Yeah,
due to the size, topography, and wetlands on the site. And you can add that into what you did.
and I can incorporate that, because the develop impact statement, I know they were asking for a waiver on that. So for that, I stated, the impact statement is a necessary tool for the town to have in its planning to accommodate the increased on-call services. The plan also requires the applicant to demonstrate its plan to preserve the environment and promote public safety, and the plan should remain a requirement.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
So, thank you,
Yeah,
so,
that's
Perfect, darling.
You'll find on the page 5, gentlemen, of the same document.
page 5, yes, that was on page
Yeah.
5.
Across from number 17.
Now, I did not go through every single one of these and come up with a recommendation. I think it's a little redundant. And I wasn't sure I was quite comprehending it to the way that they were proposing it. So for example, even just number 1, waiver request reference, let's see, subdivision, any person, subdivision call. This is about submitting stuff to the planning board, and if I'm reading it correctly, all of it, it's not a request that's needed because 40Bs are filed with ZBA.
Yes, because they're not
Right.
filing a
And
they're not filing a definitive subdivision plan with us, that's.
Right,
Yeah.
and so it would seem to me that, you know, a professional language, but basically waiver not required because a 40B application automatically goes to a ZBA. So they don't need a waiver
Right.
from the
I think
planning
the first ones
board.
we came up with were these here,
Yeah,
5, 9, 10, 32, 34.
so I'm not sure if you want me to just incorporate answers to the ones that you have presented
Well, you
and
could
just
put,
leave the rest blank?
well,
Is that what you want me to do? So for example, like
What do you
item
think?
number 1, no comment, I mean, just leave it because it's pretty.
I would leave it blank.
Leave it blank or just, a DNA or do not apply, does not apply, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you really wanna just address,
Those.
Oh, you
issues.
could
These.
redraft
Well,
it.
these are the ones that apply to us.
well,
Correct.
Well, these were
under,
the main one that I looked at, Bob,
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
that did concern
so
me.
if you read up here, right,
Yeah.
so all the waivers
Are in our rules.
are
and
in our
regs.
rules and regs, which is under the planning board.
Right.
So that's waiver 1 through,
Okay, but is the question what pertains to us? Or is it, if it was on a standard subdivision, how would that go?
right,
How
I
would
think
we
it's
do
the
it?
latter.
I think it's
And,
that.
and the rules were set by the planning board
Mhm.
on a standard subdivision.
Correct.
This is a different
Different,
type of
right.
thing, but I think we should still put our opinion on if it were,
Presented to us, how would we
As
respond?
a
How would we
conventional
Correct.
subdivision.
How would we respond?
Correct.
But they're
And-
really
and-
not applicable.
what do you mean not applicable?
The first four procedural.
Yeah, it's more of a procedure matter.
Yeah.
And that procedure is already stated in, the 40B, where it automatically diverts to ZBA. And they're the authority of approval or denial of that 40B application.
Now, was there a letter that came from ZBA to us requesting that we?
There was an email, there was an email, and you'll forgive me, I did
No,
not print
don't,
it off
you
for
don't
tonight.
need to.
But there was an email just stating that there was a reminder that they're having a meeting next week, and there's a workshop next week too, I believe.
Yes, that's.
Or maybe that's the meeting that they're having, there's
The
something going
workshop
on
prior
next
to
week.
and then the meeting, I think the workshop,
then
they
the-
said was the 10th, and the meeting was on the 12th, did they mention that?
I think that's how it went, if I remember. So they were looking for, making sure that everyone was
Makes
aware
sense.
that we're going through this.
I guess what my question is, the wording that they requested from us
Mm-hmm,
is really what, on how we should respond to them.
mm-hmm.
If they were asking if it was a standard subdivision,
Would you grant them this
what
waiver?
would we do it?
Mm.
Or maybe now that they're the ones that are they have the authority to grant waivers, should we
Yeah.
leave it up to them, do they want us to leave it up to them to decide
Well,
what
I
to
think
do
they're
or
looking
not
for
to
the
do?
planning board's recommendation, so,
So,
yeah.
I'm just gonna speak for myself, I think in my opinion, I think we should go through them all and give our opinion on that, and maybe write a note to them stating, if it was the planning board,
This is what we would do.
this is what we would do, that's, I guess that's my,
Mm.
I mean, does that make sense to you?
Well, I would do it differently, I would just say something similar to that. Planning board recommends that the following numbers of the waiver requests not be granted due to the following reasons. List them, save you a whole lot of work. I mean, you can expand on these.
Mhm.
What is important to us, so some of it's procedural,
Yeah,
so.
Safety should be our number one concern.
yes, and from the list that was provided by the board, and I highlighted some of, the safety issues.
Mm.
Cause I know that's been a concern for everyone.
My thing is, this is a serious impact for the town,
Mhm.
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
I think you were supposed to recuse.
What am I? Not really, I have
Yeah, but this isn't a public hearing. He
No,
can state his
it's not a
opinion.
public
Oh, he
hearing.
can state his opinion.
Mhm.
If,
Disorder.
and I appreciate you saying that, but, if we feel that I need to,
Mm.
I'll go on that side.
I think,
I like, so I'm gonna just, make this statement now, I think it would be in the, best interest of the board that, Mr. Figueredo recuse himself, because he is a direct abutter to this project. And going further, any comment that he will make, he will be making as a private citizen in regards to this matter. So with that being said, Mr. Figueredo, if you would, if you have any concerns.
Step off.
yeah, I think
And
that,
you will address all your concerns at that time. I think that would be best for us to do it that way.
Okay.
Mr. Figueroa, you have the floor, sir.
Well, I thank you. I think my view is this is a serious impact for the town. If we allow the petitioner to come in and get all the waivers or any waivers, in the future, the town is the one that's gonna be responsible for doing everything that of all the waivers that were granted.
Right.
So therefore, I believe that it is to the best interest of the town that no waivers are granted in any way. That's my personal opinion of it.
Okay. The ZBA is only looking for recommendations on how we would act on their waivers that their applicant has provided to them. And I understand and agree with your point that we should look at, okay, all of the waivers that are requested. Again, see what pertains to us, come up with our language, okay, because a lot of it is procedural. And they are, looking to, I shouldn't use the term subvert, but, get away from using, our bylaws, standard bylaws. And I think Mr. Figueroa is right too, is if we were to allow them to have every waiver to be done, this may set a precedent for any further 40B going forward. That's just my opinion on that. I don't know how you gentlemen feel.
Oh, I definitely agree that it would set a precedence, there's no doubt about that. Do we know how many more of the 87 that are?
Pretty much this is covered, what I
Nope, okay,
gave you.
okay. So
These
this
are pretty
is,
much what
okay,
Mr. Rhines and I talked about this morning.
okay, so we should take a look at these, find our opinion on these, and move forward that way?
I think so.
Let's do it.
And just keep in mind that pretty much the ones that were, like, the way they listed their waivers, they started with the planning board rules and regs, so that is for items, they have 57 waiver requests under the rules and regs. Then, under the zoning bylaws, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the planning board can comment on those. Then they have some for the conservation regulations, which wouldn't apply to the planning board, as well as the Board of Health, their stormwater bylaw, and their stormwater bylaw
Yeah,
regulations.
there are
So
some
we don't have
here.
to act on 87 requests, it's really just 62.
The stormwater committee is going to address at least 2 or 3 pages of stormwater.
Mm-hmm.
All the swales, catch basins, things like that,
Right,
that are in our rules and regs, but the stormwater committee is going to be
commenting on that.
correct.
Yeah, so within those 62, some of the standard responses could be, you should seek Board of Health Stormwater Committee's recommendation,
I wouldn't bother
because that's who we
going
refer
through
to.
all of that.
Yeah,
Just identify the ones that we
Are
don't
most
agree with
important.
and give the reason why.
okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
One of the questions that I noticed on that was the water table and the road finish would be only 18 inches above that. I disagree with that totally, because the frost ever gets underneath that, what is it gonna do to that road? It's gonna heave it, and it's gonna wreck it all up. And I honestly think that, I don't know if it is our, or the board to look at that, or if it's ZBA, or if it's.
See what number it was?
No, I don't, not off the top of my head. That's, I actually caught that on the plan.
I know pulling in and out of that development, once it's built to where they plan on putting
It's
the
a
road, is gonna be
serious
very
risk.
dangerous.
Very dangerous.
I mean, just pulling out of your street alone is pretty dangerous.
It is, it
And
is.
there's only,
You got
what,
that-
10 or 12
You get that
homes.
turn coming off of,
Yeah,
I mean, you really have to stick your nose out on your street to get a
Yeah.
good look both ways.
that's right, and that's a very wide,
And them cars are moving.
that's right.
I mean, I pull out of your street and I'm like, you gotta be very careful.
But the other thing is that one there, you're going up that slope,
Yeah,
and then it starts to go down again, and the road is there 150, 200 feet beyond that, so you really don't get to see the cars
right.
until they get to the crown of the
It's gonna be
road.
very dangerous. It's almost as bad as the police station.
I think that
You know, that was put in a bad spot too.
the police station is.
On the
fine.
hill.
I don't, you can't see that.
Yeah, I mean, pulling out, you know, it's dangerous.
They have signs over there, everybody's afraid of the police, so they slow down.
Mr. Chairman, if I can make a recommendation.
Sure.
How about we go through the rest of this, and if we feel we need, then we'll go through the waiver request. And if we feel there's something else, we can add it.
Joe, feel the same way? I'd have to agree. So, that being said, I'm just gonna continue, with our original, list that I was reading, and, this is, I will reference them by number, and it's number 17, which is, bylaw number 3340, which is the development impact statement. Now, they get to waive this, and, our reasoning is that, due to the size, the topography, and the wetlands on the site, it is our opinion that an appropriate evaluation of the potential impact on the area of the project could not and should not be made until such time as a development impact statement has been submitted and reviewed by all relevant parties. Now, under 2840, I'm sorry, number 28, this is, bylaw number 4140, this is open space. Now, it appears, there is not any area shown on the plan that has been designated for open space, recreational parks, playgrounds, etc. And this is which follows us on the sections 41, 41, 41, 42, and 41, 43, and it clearly identify the size and location of any such area and should be adhered to. I'm gonna read, number 52, waiver number 52 is 4430 under street lighting. Inadequate lighting creates multiple safety concerns as accidents, injury, crime, etc. take place. The placement of lighting should be shown on the plan and/or at the specifications of the Taunton Municipal Lighting Plant. Number 56. Number 56 is regards into monuments. And number 57, which is, 56 is 4563.
North Dayton.
I thought it was Dayton Electric Light District. I'm sorry, National
It's
Grid. That might
National
be it.
Grid.
Oh, is it National Grid?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, you're right
Let me
there.
read what the bylaw says to you, 44.
Sadly, I am.
Yeah,
It's only us village people that have TMLP.
4430. Municipal Light Department, whoever they are,
That would be the electric light district.
in Dayton,
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm. So for example, like we had, with Cedar Estates
They
and
had to refer back to the Dayton Electric
they
Light
had to go
District.
back to the electric light district.
So that's, just gonna be a correction, and it's gonna be, should be shown on the plan, all plans, and on the specifications of the Dayton Electric Light District. Now, we referenced this only because, we had another, subdivision that had come in front of us, and, there was a question of, lighting and where the lighting should be placed. And, when the application was submitted to us and approved, it was approved with the locations of where these lights would be located within that subdivision. So the question had gone back to the Dayton Electric Light District of what style lighting, that type of thing. That does not concern us. We were just concerned of the exact locations on the engineer plans of where those lights should be in those locations. So that's why we are looking at this, because street lighting is a major concern, especially even within the subdivision of that amount of houses that are gonna be, possibly approved. So that's a major issue. Now, I wanna move on to number 56, which is 4563, and number 57, 4564. It's regarding the monuments. And both of these items pertain to boundary markers on the front and the rear lot lines. Section 4560 in its entirety clearly defines the procedure for markers, placing of markers. It will most likely resolve any property disputes in the future. Now, if you have your property surveyed, surveyor comes out and, he'll say, put in a concrete marker with a little, looks like a little medallion on that. And that little medallion lists, your azimuth to your property, your height, vertical, horizontal, that type of thing. And what they do is that, you can triangulate. I'll just be real quick, people in the audience, just, out there, bear with me. Look at a square lot. Surveyor comes in, gets the direct point off of the street, he surveys and goes to corner A. He goes from corner A to corner B, from corner B to corner C to corner C to corner D, to back out to the street again. So those areas are marked by either a concrete marker or a standard metal rod. And we'd like to see those rods, left in place, because again, it will possibly take care of any future land disputes down the road, so that's where we're looking at that. And number 61 on the list is 2820, which is applicability, which is the Dayton zoning bylaws subdivision phasing. And that's-
I didn't get to write a comment. However, what they're asking to waive is the percentage of development each year that's in our, this is in the blue book this time. What we have presently, areas of land subject to the jurisdiction of the planning board under the subdivision control law shall not be developed by the construction of dwelling units at a greater rate than permitted below. Subdivisions containing 8 or more building lots shall not be developed by the construction of dwelling units at a rate greater than 8 lots or 10% of the total number of lots shown on approved definitive subdivision plan per year, whichever is greater. Now, there's 116 units here. So if there's no control of the amount of building, and this is one we should definitely not agree to waive, which is why it's on here, so.
I actually did come across a standard response for that as well.
Oh, did you? Right now, if you wanna add,
To help
Dayton
with the
is in the
flow.
top 5 communities as far as building in Bristol County. We used to be on top, now we're in the top 5, so.
So I can pull that standard language on that.
Yeah, if you
From
have
another
previous,
town. I wanna say, I think it was Harwich, they had posted, like the whole application process, and they had the planning board's response. And they had a really good language about the reason why they phase it. It's
Right.
because it helps the town grow along with it, for lack of a better term. So I can incorporate that
A
as
lot
well.
A lot of cities and towns are doing like, they release only 5 lots.
Yeah,
6 lots, 7 lots, depends on how comfortable they are.
yeah,
And
It controls the impacts on the town.
right, that's a good one,
Majorly.
yeah.
Correct.
yeah.
We already do have some regulations on that, right?
I
Yeah,
know.
it's
10%?
10%.
And that's what this is asking,
Yeah.
a waiver
Right, yeah,
from.
they want.
And
Right.
that's what we don't,
Yeah, we don't want.
Right.
yeah,
It's, the applicant would just like to come in and just
Go
kill
to
the
town.
subdivision and be done,
Right.
you know?
I thought it was X amount per year
Eight
or
per year,
10%.
it is, it's
Right.
8 per year or 10%.
Yeah,
Right.
you can do
Okay.
10%.
So in this case, it would be, what,
It'd be 9.
is it 116?
Yeah.
right now it's
Yeah.
hundred
Well,
and
see,
sixteen.
10%,
It'd be 11.
11.
11 or 12, yeah.
But we also have a clause somewhere, if I remember correctly, that subdivision has to be completed within a certain amount of time. So we gotta be careful on how
We word that.
we
Right.
word that. Okay, because if we say you can only build
Then
8,
five years, right? I think it's 5 years.
I thought it was 3, but
That's how I say it.
And going back to the recreational part that Tim was talking about, when they did Stonegate across the way, I was a park and rec director, commissioner. And we negotiated with them to build a playground for X amount of dollars, I forget how much they spent, but it was a good amount. But it had to be built after the 20th home was built. They could not build another home until the playground was installed. So they built 20 homes and all of a sudden they sold another one and they were in a big hurry to build it. But they had to put the playground in first. And they tried to get around that, but they couldn't.
They built it.
And they built the playground. So this development's gonna need the same thing.
where was this?
Right across the street.
It's
Oh,
Stonegate.
this one
Oh,
across-
yeah.
okay.
That's a provision the zoning board will put on.
Right.
I would
That's,
assume.
yeah,
They would
that
have
was,
Yeah.
that was 25,000.
Well, actually, yeah, the zoning board did, cause I remember Joe Pacheco was on it at the time. And I went to those meetings.
Yeah. That was, well, on Park and Rec at that time when that playground was built, and it was built for $25,000. And, I'm gonna put on another hat just for a second. I happen to be also the chairman of the playground commission in town, and, I feel the same way as Mr. Woods does, is that, there should be some type of recreational, whether it be passive, recreation or recreation for children also at that location, because we do not want those children, again, crossing 138 and coming over here to the community playground. In my mind, it is a major safety issue. We need, not that, we're gonna say we're gonna contain those residents, but we just don't wanna see anyone get hurt by, coming up 138 and using the playground and the facilities behind us. If they're gonna walk.
Is there a sidewalk on the west side of 138 from there?
There is no sidewalk.
There's no sidewalk
There's
anywhere.
no sidewalk at all.
Have to put a
No.
sidewalk up there till they get.
They're gonna make a bike lane, they told me, bicycle lane.
On 138,
Oh, 138.
Never had with that.
So,
That's even bigger safety issue.
Absolutely.
Vice Chair would like to say something, if you would.
Yeah, just bear in mind that what I put on today can be certainly expanded on.
Okay,
I just basically threw some thoughts on there real quickly to try to identify the
critical.
the articles or the items in our subdivision rules and regulations, so tweak away,
Okay,
you know.
I'll be happy to.
Okay. I'm available pretty much, every day except Tuesdays and Saturdays. I know this town hall's only open Monday through Thursday, but, I can work together with, our office manager to go through these waivers and to get proper, language included with those. So with that being said, John, what's your pleasure on this? On the list of waivers and how we're going to act in regards to going any further?
Do we need to act before their next meeting?
Tenth.
But they're
Yeah, I would
before the
say-
10th, so this
So
is,
we have
that's
to have
next
the
week,
deadline.
right?
the time crunch is on,
Yeah,
it's
next-
Monday or Tuesday.
All we have for preparation of the responses are Thursday and Monday.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, okay, so I'll be cracking at it with our, office manager, so.
That's why we made you the chairman.
So this, no, gentlemen, if you do have and look at anything, look it over again at home, send our office manager an email with those numbers, reference them by numbers on that waiver list, and, we'll look at those and come up with the appropriate responses. Because again, not only do I plan on representing the planning board that evening, but I'm also going to represent, Parks and Rec that evening also, in regards to, some recreational matters. And going further, I'd like to request the board that, we just, go further and reference this as a, 40B, a application for a 40B and not refer to it by the applicant's name.
Or the project's name.
Or the project name.
So reference it as
Reference
Strawberry
it by-
Fields.
No, just reference it as, future 40B, on.
Okay, so period, so this will set precedence to
Yeah, so that way-
other
Yeah,
subdivisions.
we're not,
40B subdivisions that come on.
we don't want.
Good idea.
Yeah, they all have different waiver requests, and we gotta review each one.
I just can't believe that there's even
Yeah, I
7
know,
waiver requests.
I was going through the email like, are you kidding?
I think the,
When's
It's
the
still
time?
going.
I was like,
That's
Jesus.
just- yeah,
Well,
it's
you
not
know who
the-
you're dealing with.
It's not the
Chairman,
first group.
I think the responses may have to be specific to the Strawberry Fields waiver request.
Okay. Reference it by name.
Yeah, and name and number,
Okay.
right? I hate to not,
Yeah, because that could,
I hate to not do that.
there will be,
Well,
yeah,
what are you talking about here?
yeah,
that's true.
yeah.
That's true.
Hmm.
So with that being said, I'm gonna work directly with our office manager and, go through our zoning bylaws, and we will reference everything by our zoning bylaw with an explanation, of why we are, contesting their waiver for this project, or any waivers.
I'm gonna make a motion to authorize the chairman to work with and along the office, our office manager in developing the, responses to the waiver request.
Motion made, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. All right, we're gonna move on to, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the January 15th, 2020 meeting.
So moved.
Motion made, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. I did have, just a couple correspondences, this is just for informational purposes only. The 2020 Massachusetts Land Conservation Conference is being held on Saturday, March 28th at the Worcester Technical High School in Worcester, Massachusetts. You can register online today, space is limited, at www.massland.org/conference. And these conferences give different workshops and, there'll be breaks and refreshments and lunch and that type of thing, so, if anyone's, interested in attending, just, let the office manager know and we can go further with that. And I'm sure that's gone to some of the other boards and committees in town. We just received just a, letter from the Department of Housing and Community Development. And this is from Rachel Rubin, the Chief Counsel, Office of the General Counsel. Catherine Race, our Associate Director of Division of Housing and Development. And this is, Mass Housing is requesting the updated list of the subsidized housing inventory, the biannual update. So this is out of our purview, but this is just for informational purposes only. I'm sure that the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen, along with the appropriate boards, will be working on this to present the information back to Department of Housing and Community Development. Just very quickly, we receive this every month, and this is a magazine, it's called The Beacon. And this comes out from the Mass Municipal Association. It highlights hot topics that are going on in the state, what projects are being worked on, what the MMA has approved and voted on in regards to their bylaws. It gives you an update from the governor, what the governor's up to. And it also has a listing of job opportunities and openings for every municipality in the state. So we receive these every month. I try to get a good look at it. Some things pertain to us, others don't. It's good for informational purposes. It's available in our office, so any member who wants to take a look at it, you're more than welcome to come by and stop in. Any public input? Hearing none, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Before we adjourn, just a reminder, gentlemen, that our next meeting date is February 19th, 2020, and we just haven't set a time, it's 6 p.m.
Good night, Cable.
Motion been made to adjourn. We'll hear a second.